Hi, my name is Alyssa Ojeda, and I am the Marketing and Public Relations Manager for Grand Canyon Conservancy, the official nonprofit partner to Grand Canyon National Park. And we work hand in hand with the Park Service to provide educational opportunities as well as digital programming to keep you connected. And I'm excited to share that thanks to your ongoing engagement, we have some new interviews that we are launching in our History Behind the Art series, which provides you an in depth look at the Cultural Demonstrator program at Grand Canyon. And so, with that, it is my pleasure to introduce to you today Cultural Demonstrator Program Coordinator Grace Lilly.
Hi, thank you for joining us today. We have the pleasure of talking with Iva Honyestewa, a Hopi Navajo basket weaver, joining us from her home on Second Mesa in the village of Shamopavi in Northeast Arizona. Iva is an artist in many ways. She is a silversmith, but is best known for her baskets and especially a new design she created called Poostaya. And we will discuss this with her today. Thank you for joining us today, Iva.
Hi. Nung happy honwai ni Myanmar tiwa. Ne tawa wangwa ne sungopang sino. Hi, my name is Honwai Nim, which is my Hopi name, and I'm Sun Clan from the village of Sungopavi, and my English name is Iva Honyestewa, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us, Iva. Do you mind sharing just a little bit about yourself and how you learned the skills of jewelry making and basket weaving?
Okay, yes, I am a basket weaver and a jeweler. I've been weaving baskets for over 28 years. I started out with a sifter basket, which my first cousin Beth Dewahoniwa taught me. And I've been doing jewelry probably over 30 years. I learned that from my father, Richard Casus, who is Navajo. And I also learned from Roy Talahatiwa tufa casting. And from Charles Supley, I learned how to do wax casting. So that's where I got my teachings from.
Wonderful. And was there something that really steered you towards basket weaving as your main craft?
Well, I started because of my mom, Shirley. She's part of the Women's Basket Society. And one year she was going to be throwing, and at the time I didn't know how to weave baskets. She came to my home and told me that she was throwing that year. They have this ceremony where they throw out the baskets. And Beth at the time was working for me. I own East Classic Gallery in Second Mesa. She was working for me and we were talking about it. Beth told my mom that she'd be willing to teach me how to make the sifter baskets. So she's the one that actually taught me how to weave sifter baskets. And that's where I started weaving my baskets.
Wonderful. Well, can you tell us a little bit about the materials that you use to weave with?
Most of the Hopi weavers use the yucca plant, and the yucca plant is grown wild. So I can show you what it actually looks like. This is the yucca plant. And as you can see, the bottom is cut off. There's a root here in the ground and we cut it. And we leave the root in there hoping that it grows more again or comes back and grows again. But this is the original green, natural green yucca plant. This is what it looks like when we first gather it. We go out to gather it. And then after that, we clean them and there's these very fine hairs. And it's a very tedious job. It's a long process to prepare your yucca before you start weaving. So there's these little fine hairs that we clean off from every strand. And then we split them, sort them, and then dye them. And then this is some of my dyed yucca. This is what it looks like after it's dyed. So there's all different colors we use. Our natural colors that are natural are yellow, white, and green. The purples, teals, we do have some natural dyes. They're raw plants like wild tea. There's two different types that we use. We use, like lately, I'm talking about using beets, the beet to make the red. So there's different natural dyes out there.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for telling us about that. Do you also use any other plant materials that help give you some stability or shape to the basket?
Yes, I use willow branch. We go out and gather the willow branches, and then we form the rings that go around the outer part where we tie the yucca to it. So this is a willow branch, and we also use the three-leaf sumac branch. It's similar to the willow, the three-leaf sumac branch, and it's also gathered while it's fresh, and then you form it while it's wet. And a lot of the women during the basket dance, they use a metal ring also. So we do use metal rings also to tie our yuccas on to the ring.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for sharing about those materials, and kind of that's the first step in making a basket is getting those materials gathered. Can you kind of walk us through how you would create a basket from start to finish?
Actually, I don't have any started material, but I am working on a coil basket right now. So the yucca strands are the very fine strips, and these are very fine strips of yucca that we use in the coil. So if you can see how fine that is, that's what's being wrapped around this other material, rabbit brush. So we wrap it around, and we're poking a hole with our awl, and then making the hole, and then we put it through, and we're just continually wrapping it. For the sifter basket, we use the wider strands of yucca. If you notice the difference. So coil is this fine one, and then sifter would be this, a little wider piece of yucca. And that's what's woven into these sifter baskets. And this is an all natural green and white sifter basket. So you notice the wideness in the yucca versus the extra fine that's going into the bota. We call a coil a bota. So this bota is a coil basket, and then this is a yucca basket.
Those are beautiful baskets that you make, Iva. Thank you for telling us a little bit about how you make those. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference of what a coil basket or a sifter basket might have been used for historically?
Yeah, a long time ago, our Hopi people used the baskets daily because they didn't have plates and cups like we do today. So they carry a lot of their plants, their wild edible plants in it. The sifter basket was originally used for sifting corn seeds. Here's an example of corn being put in the sifter basket. So the green one we use today in sifting corn, drying peaches, drying green edibles. It has so many uses, putting your fruit in it. It could be a bread basket, just about anything. But when you get a green sifter basket like this, you can even strain vegetables or fruit through it because it's the natural color. Versus a colored basket, you don't really want to do that. You could try if you want, but if the dye stays in, it'll be fine, but it's likely the dye might come through when you're straining. So the green one is more utilitarian that we use today. And these we could just hold like bread or our mail in it, keys, just about anything.
It's great to hear that they're still useful today. It's, people
Yes.
think, oh, baskets aren't used anymore, but the way you look around, there's so many uses for them. So it's great to see that you're still able to make a living piece.
Yeah. And then the coil basket, a lot bigger than this, we use in our ceremonies to dance with. They use all the baskets to pay back like partners for dancing after them, the young maidens, ceremonial paybacks in weddings. We have like the piki tray behind me. We carry piki on it, and traditionally they use the three-leaf sumac branch. This one has some three-leaf sumac branch in between, but most of it is yucca. But the original traditional piki basket is all 3-leaf sumac branch.
Very interesting just to see the different materials and those different shapes and uses. So it's amazing that, you know, baskets have survived for thousands of years and you're still making them today. It's an amazing tradition, Iva. Do you mind telling us a little bit about how you connect to Grand Canyon personally?
Well, since I was invited up to Grand Canyon, I enjoy going up there presenting because it's very beautiful. It's really relaxing. It's just the colors in the canyon that makes it so relaxing. Me and my husband go out there and we usually go run early in the morning along the rim. It is so quiet, peaceful, and beautiful to see the sunrise come up. So I guess it's more of a relaxing time that's the reason why we love being there. It's just to be connected, I guess, to Mother Nature, the beauty of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a beautiful place and a place to rejuvenate your soul, I feel.
Yes, exactly.
We hope to have you guys back again soon.
Mm.
So as we're talking about Grand Canyon being a very spiritual place and a place to rejuvenate, is there anything that you would like to share with our audience today of what you hope that they know or understand about the Hopi culture or belief system?
Well, Hopi we're said to be the peaceful people. So Hopi is a religion where you learn to be Hopi. And that means reading people carefully, treating people right, just being nice all around, being true to yourself. I think just knowing that what we're taught through the Hopi culture is all about ourselves, how to be, and it's a very straight path that we're supposed to be walking. And it's not easy to be Hopi. It's hard because sometimes you run off that path, then you get back on. You know, it's a lifelong learning, I guess. But that's what Hopi really is supposed to be. We are supposed to be peaceful, peace within ourselves. And a lot of that isn't being taught the way it should be taught. And I think that's why we're in this state of corruption right now, chaos in the world. But a lot of the teachings, not only in the Hopi culture, all other cultures, I'm sure, have the same values and teachings. And we just need to share that more so we can become balanced and treat each other equally. Let there be peace in the world.
You guys have amazing traditions and values, and I think that's what's made your culture such a long-lasting, strong culture throughout the ages. So thank you for sharing that with us, Iva. So I want to kind of go back to your baskets. You've been weaving for many decades, and you've had the opportunity to create something new, your Poostaya basket. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you came up with that idea and how it unfolded into an amazing new style.
Yes, in 2014, I did an artist in residency at the School for Advanced Research in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And when I applied for that residency, they ask you what projects you have in mind that you'd like to do while you're there, because I was there for 3 months. The program tells you that you have to be there for 3 months and create what your project's going to be. And I had 2 of them. And one of them was where the sun fits in. So I made this weaving that's behind me, this one right here. And it's symbols of different clans that migrated to Hopi centuries ago. And they brought a really important teaching to the village of Sumupavi. And these particular clans came in at different times, but they along the way came together and created something very special for our Hopi people. And that story that was shared with me through my uncles and my brothers, I wanted to teach my sons that story. And so I kept thinking, how am I going to continue teaching that to my boys? And I thought about buying pottery tiles from a potter with all the symbols, clan symbols on them of the Sand Clan, the lizard at the top. If you can see it, the lizard at the top here. And then after them is the Water Clan, and then the Badger Clan. I had missed the Corn Clan. I somehow didn't get in the Corn Clan, and then the Tobacco Clan, then the Fire Clan, and then I'm Sun Clan. So we're at the very end of it, and that's what I titled it, was where the sun fits in, and we're at the very end. But these particular clans created this and brought this to Sungupavi, and that's how they were allowed to come into the village of Sungupavi. Long time ago, while people, different clans were migrating, they were asking for permission to come into the villages, and you had to have a contribution to help out in the village. And that's what they would ask you. And if you didn't, they'd send you on your way. But these particular clans were brought into the village and shared that with the village. So that's when I decided to create this weaving, just to show my sons the story and share it with them with the weaving here. And that was one of my projects. And then my second one was the Poostaya. Like I told you earlier, the bota is a coiled basket, and then the sifter basket is a Poostaya. So I came up with the name after creating the Poostaya, putting the two names together. The two right here, the butterfly Poostaya, and then this is the orange flower. Those are the two Poostayas I have on hand right now, but that was what I created while I was at the School for Advanced Research in 2014. And when 2 years before that, in 2012, was when I got this idea that I was gonna combine the two Hopi baskets. And I had mentioned it to my uncle, and he asked me what I was thinking and why I was going to do that. And he told me that you just can't do that. And I said, why? And then he said, when you're doing something new, creating something new, you have to have a purpose for it. And I'm like, okay, so how do I, what is going to be my purpose? And as I was at SAR, I was cleaning my yucca, thinking about that, because I started with the Where the Sun's In project first. Then I decided to go to the Poostaya, the combination of the coil and the sifter basket. And as I was cleaning my yucca, and like I said, I was there for 3 months. So it pulled me out from Hopi, far away from my family. My son at the time, Richard, was just, I think, 7 or 8 years old. And that was hard. And just to be away from your family alone, that gave me the time to look back at myself, what kind of life I was living. It gave me a chance to look back at my community. And boy, that was really something. And that's why I believed that I was there for a reason. And that's when it hit me that that was going to be my purpose of combining these two, was to bring our community back together. So when I started weaving the coil basket, I said, the coil has to be woven tight to symbolize a tight foundation for our community. And as I tied in the yucca strands, I said, I'm going to tie each and every one of us back together. That's symbolizing each of us as a family, as individuals, that we're tying each other's back together to become one again, because we need each other to all work together to make it a better community for our children and the children that are not here yet, that are still coming in the future. And that was the purpose behind my Poostaya. And I felt that was a really important purpose, and I was really happy. And it was tough when I first started doing it, trying to figure out, how am I going to put this together? And today, this is what it looks like versus the very first Poostaya that I made. And I have a video out through SAR, and you'll see my very first 3 Poostayas that I had created in that video. But today, this is what it looks like. And you can see the changes of how I'm still trying to perfect it in a way. I'm still working at that. And that's my Poostayas.
That's really great. Thank you so much for sharing, Iva. It's an amazing story to be able to create that purpose of uniting your community again. So as you've spent so many years as an artist doing your jewelry and your baskets, do you have any words of wisdom that you would like to share with other artists?
There's a lot of artists out there, and we as artists tend to put ourselves into our art. So continue to do that and always be positive as you're making it, because we more or less we give part of ourselves to whoever purchases our art. And I was telling a friend of mine a few days ago that I was known for my bright colors in my baskets. And I said, they tell us as art, well, my uncle used to tell us that when you create an art or something, you tend to make yourself. So when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I have these such bold, bright colors. And maybe it's because I'm so bold that I put myself into that like that. But that's what I was known for, is my bright colors. And just continue to do your art and share it, you know, and especially our basket weaving. There's so many basket weavers throughout the world, you know, and some of them are losing that art and it's not being taught. So continue to teach and share your art.
Those are great words of inspiration. So thank you, Iva. And I have one last question that has to do with these strange times that we're all trying to deal with. It's really hard for a lot of people to navigate. They haven't gone through this before, but generations before us have. And I don't know if you have any knowledge, experience, or skills that you've picked up from your ancestors, your family, that might be able to help us deal with some of the challenges that we're facing today with the pandemic, with trying to be able to take care of ourselves through these health issues. So if you have any ideas on how you might be able to share your belief system and how it's helped your ancestors before you survive these challenging ordeals, people would really love to hear a little bit of advice and hope to kind of give them some inspiration to move through.
Yeah, this is a tough time right now with the COVID going on. And I have to say that it did affect me also. I kind of was so in this slow pace mode. I don't know, maybe I went into depression a little bit because I just couldn't do anything at the beginning. I wasn't weaving, nothing. But what got me through it was I was doing my garden project. And that's what really got me going, was just focusing on growing my vegetables, taking care of my garden. I I literally made a whole new garden from what it used to be. And that's what kept me busy. But a lot of the teachings that we're taught is just take care of yourself, continue to run. I ran most of my life, and that's something I'm really grateful that my grandfather, my uncles taught me, was to take care of yourself. Just keep yourself active and running. And my dad was a very hard worker. He was constantly moving, just he didn't sit still, and he said, look at work as exercise. And that's how I looked at work. I looked at it as exercise, keeping my body moving. And these teachings that we're taught is to take care of ourselves so we can be healthy. And my uncle says, you have to take care of yourself because you never know when they're going to put you in a position that is strenuous or where you're going to have to be physically in shape. And that's what I always remembered. And I think that's why I've always been running all my life. And I continue to run to today. So that was one of the teachings I know for sure. And then to believe in prayer, that there's spirits out there, our creators watching over us, that, you know, you believe in him, that we'll be fine. And prayer is really important to us Hopis. I mean, we're all connected. There's things out there watching over us, so we believe in that.
Really great advice, Iva. I hope some people will be able to draw from that and keep hope during these tough, challenging times. This is a last opportunity. If there's anything that we didn't discuss today that you would like to share with our audience today, the floor is to you, Iva.
I was going to share also, there's different villages that make different baskets, and this is a wicker basket, and the third Mesa basket weavers make this particular basket. And they also make the sifter baskets also, and the piki trays. And then First Mesa, they're known mainly for pottery. They do a lot of pottery art. So the different villages have the different types of arts that we're known for. And Second Mesa is mostly known for the coil basket, but now we're known for the Poostaya.
Yeah. I was going to say, there's something new there. You know, each generation can add new art, which is amazing.
Yes.
So, thank you so much, Iva, for taking the time to share your knowledge, experiences, and skills with us today. It's an honor to have you be a part of our cultural demonstration program, and we appreciate your efforts in helping more people feel connected to Grand Canyon, its history, and its spirit. So thank you so much, and we look forward to having you back here sometime soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you as well.
Thank you, Iva, for sharing your basket weaving techniques with us today, as well as some of your own new design styles. So, for those of you who do not know, Grand Canyon's Cultural Demonstration Program is made possible with support and grants from Grand Canyon Conservancy and Art Place America. To learn more about the artisans in this program, visit grandcanyon.org/demonstrators. That's grandcanyon.org/demonstrators. And stay tuned. Next week, we'll be launching another History Behind the Arts feature on both Grand Canyon National Park and Grand Canyon Conservancy's social media pages. Thank you for joining us.